Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. Tonight we're leading with unprecedented protests in China. It's not just in Beijing, it's not just in Shanghai, it's in Wuhan, the epicenter of the global COVID pandemic, and it's also at universities. Here are the top headlines. Step down Xi, protests spread in Chinese cities. Police detain people protesting across the country. A white paper, just a simple blank paper, is the new symbol of defiance in protests. Global stocks and global oil prices are hit by the China protests. As global markets fall over China unrest, defying global markets, Indian markets at a new high. Markets continue their winning streak, up over 2% in the last 5 days. The Supreme Court today asks on judicial appointments, tells the centre names not being cleared. How will the system work? The top court questions the centre on judicial appointments, saying the names of some judges are pending for over a year. Resolve the issue, don't force us to decide. On the Gujarat campaign, Prime Minister Modi, Amit Shah and various other political leaders. This election will seal Gujarat's fate for the next 25 years, says the Prime Minister. But Rahul Gandhi in Madhya Pradesh says, at the moment, I'm not worried about elections or politics. The yatra is tapasya for me. This as Akhilesh and Dimple are campaigning in a key UP by-election. Men with swords attack Aftab's police van in Delhi. A cop fires in the air as a man waves his sword. The men detained claim they are part of a Hindu Sena. Aftab was in the police van at the time of the attack but is unhurt. How can you call me Kasab? An outraged student hits back at his professor. The Manipal Institute suspends a professor who called this Muslim student after he said his name, saying it's like Kasab. It's not funny. The student speaks out. Another horror story of ragging. A young boy jumps off the roof of his hostel in Dibrugarh, Assam to avoid ragging. A night of torture and beating at his hostel, says his family. Deadly ragging, how it's destroying students' lives. Our lead story tonight, the unprecedented protests in China, protests that haven't been seen since the time of Tiananmen Square. What's important this time is how fast the protests spread and how many people were actually out on the streets. So you can see there the huge crowds in different cities, at universities, all holding blank paper as signs of their protest. This comes as a reaction to the draconian COVID curbs and was sparked by the death of people in a lockdown building where they were actually trapped, and many people died in that fire. So the protests from the COVID epicenter Wuhan to clashes in Shanghai, the first direct challenge to Xi's iron fist regime.
The biggest wave of civil disobedience in mainland China since Xi Jinping assumed power a decade ago, as protests over China's draconian zero-COVID policy flare up in several cities. In Beijing, two groups of protesters totaling at least 1,000 people gathered, refusing to disperse, as authorities imposed snap lockdowns, lengthy quarantines, and mass testing campaigns over a handful of COVID cases. In an unusually bold act that appeared to indicate the level of people's desperation, a crowd in Shanghai called for the removal of the Communist Party and Xi Jinping during a standoff with the police, chanting Xi Jinping, step down. Chinese people usually refrain from criticizing the party and its leaders in public for fear of reprisals. In Wuhan, where the pandemic began 3 years ago, Videos on social media showed residents take to the streets, smashing through metal barricades, overturning COVID testing tents and demanding an end to lockdowns. The Chinese healthcare system is creaking under the mass testing of millions every day, yet experts say lifting restrictions could lead to more than 1 million COVID deaths due to the low vaccination among the elderly. But as China sticks with Xi's zero COVID policy, even as much of the world has lifted restrictions, Chinese stocks fell sharply as investors raised concerns over the impact of the protests on the world's second largest economy. The past few days of protests in China over the zero COVID policy have combined widespread anger over multiple issues in a manner unheard of since Tiananmen Square in 1989. 2 years ago, the zero COVID policy was successful in preserving the freedom of the majority at the cost of the minority of lockdown cities such as Wuhan. Now the country seems much more united in its suffering. Parmeshwar for NDTV.
And why is the world watching this so closely? One, of course, is the huge geopolitical impact on these unprecedented protests against Xi, but also because it's the world's second largest economy. So, Priyanshi, what's the impact?
Absolutely, Sonia. We've seen that global markets witnessed a sell-off after these protests erupted in China, but India emerged to be an outlier. Indian stocks gained and, in fact, went to a record high after these protests emerged. Let's go through the data in the global markets and then the Indian markets and why they're an outlier. The Shanghai index was down 0.75%. The Hong Kong index down 1.5%. Europe's FTSE 100 down 0.4%. Europe's stock 600 was also down 0.7%. But as I said, India turns out to be an outlier, and Sensex and Nifty touched record highs and markets gained over 0.3%. Sensex, in fact, gained for the fifth straight session. Sensex gained over 211 points and it ended at 62,505, while Nifty gained 50 points and ended at 18,562. Now, markets are up over 2% in the last 5 days. With this, the Indian markets are defying that global gloom trend that is seen in the Asian peers, and Indian markets are touching record highs. There are two major reasons. First, inflation is falling, and we saw that US inflation fell below expectations. In India, inflation is below 7%. So that is being taken as a sign that inflation might have peaked. So that is leading to a fall in the fears of sharp interest rate hikes, and those interest rate hikes were the very reason one of the primary reasons taking the markets down. So now that those fears have come down, the markets are witnessing a boost. Another important reason is that oil prices. China is one of the world's largest oil consumers. With the lockdown, there's a fear that the global demand for oil might go down. As lower demand pushes prices downwards too, Brent crude prices are down 3% today, down to $81 per barrel from $95 per barrel just last month. And India imports over 80% of its crude oil requirements, so falling oil prices are helping the Indian markets too. These reasons are contributing to the Indian markets defying that global downward trend.
Thanks so much, Priyanshi. We'll keep tracking that important story. But let's go back to what's happening today at the Supreme Court. And, well, public sparring, in a sense, between the Supreme Court and the Centre with Judicial Appointments. Arvind has the big headlines on that story. Arvind, what happened today in court?
Sonia, in a most unusual manner today, Supreme Court took the delay in appointment of judges to the higher judiciary issue on judicial side, which has till date has always been on an administrative process between the Supreme Court Collegium and the government in power. But this time, Supreme Court has taken the delay in appointment of judges to the higher judiciary on judicial side, and that's where the Supreme Court is hearing this matter in an open court, and that's where today Supreme Court asked some pertinent question to the centre government, very much to the effect that if at all if the centre is not clearing the names that are being recommended by the collegium, then the system cannot even work. Those were the words that were said by the Supreme Court judges. The bench headed by Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul told the centre government that both the senior law officers of the government, both the Attorney General and also the Solicitor General are here. They should convey the sentiment of the Supreme Court to the central government so that the names that are pending with the central government for more than a year can be cleared at the earliest. Right. And also the Supreme Court has disapproved the statement that was made by the Union Law Minister Kiran Rijiju regarding the collegium system. The Supreme Court said that the people in high position should not have commented the way that the Union Law Minister made such comments.
Right, in our next hearing on the 8th of December, with the Supreme Court saying that, well, if you can't resolve it, we will decide. Let's see what the centre comes back with. But moving now to these visuals, now really shocking visuals. This is, of course, from India's capital, of men wielding swords. These men, claiming to be of a Hindu Sena, wanted to attack the van that Aftab, the main accused in the killing of a young woman, Shraddha, was sitting in after a polygraph test. Let's just listen to what happened. That the policeman has taken out his gun, that's how they stopped. But the fact that these men with swords can actually just be out there in the heart of India's national capital, get that close to the van in which a key accused in a crime case is sitting, is in itself shocking. The police have issued a statement saying they belong to a Hindu Sena. But how are these men roaming around with swords in the middle of New Delhi? Well, the other big headline, all the big guns out today in Gujarat as campaigning for the first phase ends tomorrow evening. Also there was the Prime Minister Amit Shah from the BJP and various other state chief ministers from the Congress President Kharge. Rahul Gandhi, meanwhile, in Madhya Pradesh, said he's not interested in elections at the moment. His focus is the yatra and bringing India together.
આ ચૂંટણીમાં 25 વર્ષનો નિર્ણય કરવાનો છે. આ કોંગ્રેસ એટલે કચ્છની ગોળ દુશ્મન અને કચ્છમાં પાણી ન પહોંચે એના માટે જે લોકો ખેલ કરતા હતા એમની જોડે એમની જુગલબંધી હતી, એમની જોડે દોસ્તી હતી.
નરેન્દ્રભાઈની સરકાર બની 2002 માં ફરીવાર અટકચારો કર્યો. નરેન્દ્રભાઈએ રમખાણો કરાવવા વાળાને 2002 માં એવો પાઠ ભણાયો કે 2022 સુધી કોઈ જગ્યાએ કર્ફ્યુ નથી નાખ્યો.
अगले 1 साल के अंदर सारी सरकारी नौकरियों की भर्ती पूरी कर दी जाएगी और एक भी पेपर फूटने नहीं देंगे. बेरोजगारों के लिए रोजगार का इंतजाम करेंगे और जब तक उनको रोजगार नहीं मिलता तब तक 3-3 हजार रुपए बेरोजगारी भत्ता दिया जाएगा.
एक बात चलती है, एक बार अगर झूठ बोलेंगे लोग सुन लेंगे, 2 बार भी बोलेंगे तो भी सुन लेंगे. कितने बार झूठ बोलेंगे? झूठ पर झूठ, ये झूठों के सरदार है.
Rahul Gandhi in Madhya Pradesh today made his first comments in an NDTV exclusive interview with the Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot, where he calls his rival Sachin Pilot a traitor. Rahul Gandhi, who said his current yatra is a tapasya, said that both Sachin Pilot and Ashok Gehlot are great assets to the party.
इस यात्रा के क्लियर लक्ष्य में इस यात्रा को डिस्ट्रैक्ट नहीं करना चाहता हूं. मेरी जिम्मेदारी है और एक तरह से मेरी तपस्या है. कुछ सोच कर नहीं किया मैंने कि इससे ये फायदा मिलेगा या ये फायदा मिलेगा. इससे मुझे कुछ ना मिले तब भी ये मेरी जिम्मेदारी है और इसको मैं करूंगा, पूरा करूंगा. देखिए, मैं इसमें जाना नहीं चाहता हूं कि किसने क्या कहा. ठीक है, ये दोनों नेता कांग्रेस पार्टी के एसेट्स हैं, मगर मैं आपको एक बात की गारंटी दे सकता हूं कि भारत जोड़ो यात्रा पर इसका कोई असर नहीं पड़ने वाला है.
Rahul Gandhi there, but also there are key by-elections happening at the same time, the results for which will be on the 8th. And one high-pitched battle between the BJP and the Samajwadi Party in Uttar Pradesh is in Mainpuri, the late Mulayam Singh Yadav's seat, where his daughter-in-law Dimple Yadav is contesting. Today campaigning in Mainpuri, Akhilesh Yadav, Dimple Yadav and the Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath.
Dimple Yadav is the Samajwadi Party candidate for the Mainpuri Lok Sabha seat. The seat was vacated after the unfortunate demise of her father-in-law, Mulayam Singh Yadav. She's been campaigning extensively Akhilesh Yadav, the Samajwadi Party chief, separately campaigning, small sabhas being addressed. Ma'am, I saw that you've been invoking Netaji's name, Mulayam Singh Yadav's name a lot. The seat obviously got vacated after his unfortunate demise. How important is this election for you as a politician and to carry forward the Samajwadi Party's stronghold in Mainpuri, ma'am?
नेताजी हमारे बीच में अब नहीं है, हम सभी को पता है ये बात। और यह चुनाव 1 साल का चुनाव है, यह मेरा चुनाव नहीं है। यह एक मौका है यहाँ इस क्षेत्र की जनता के पास कि वो सच्ची श्रद्धांजलि दे सकें अपने पूजनीय नेताजी को।
मैम, बीजेपी का भी कैंपेन हो रहा है, उनके भी बिग गन्स योगी आदित्यनाथ भी आ जाए कैंपेन करने के लिए, बाकी लोग भी कर रहे हैं। वो ये कह रहे हैं कि अखिलेश यादव या उनका परिवार नेताजी का असली उत्तराधिकारी नहीं है। दे आर सेइंग दैट यू काइंड ऑफ असर्व्ड नेताजीज लेगेसी, उनको पावर से हटाया। बहुत सारे आरोप लगा रहे हैं। हाउ डू यू रिस्पॉन्ड टू दोज एलिगेशंस? कैसे आप रिस्पॉन्ड करेंगे?
जो काम समाजवादी सरकार ने किए हैं और जो नेताजी के सिद्धांत रहे हैं, जो उनके आदर्श रहे हैं, उन्हीं पे लगातार निरंतर काम हो रहा है। और मैं समझती हूँ कि गांव-गांव जाके देखना चाहिए बीजेपी के बड़े बड़े नेताओं को कि स्थिति क्या है यहाँ गांव की। यहाँ पे इतने युवा आपको नज़र आ रहे हैं, किसी कहीं पे भी चले जाइए आप, युवा ही युवा नज़र आ रहे हैं और किसी के पास नौकरी नहीं है।
राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष भी परिवार का, मुख्यमंत्री भी परिवार का, राष्ट्रीय महासचिव भी परिवार का, सांसद भी परिवार का, ब्लॉक प्रमुख भी परिवार का, विधायक भी परिवार का। परिवार के दायरे से बाहर कोई नहीं निकल पाता है।
That's the battle in Mainpuri. But moving to another big headline, a young student's outrage on video as a professor in his university called him Kasab, saying his name is like Kasab because he's Muslim, has gone viral. The professor has now been suspended by the Manipal University, who said their campuses encourage diversity. Listen to this young student whose video is going viral as he makes some extremely valid points to this professor.
Religion done in such a derogatory manner. No, you're just like my kid. No, if a father says that, I disown him. No, it's not, sir. It's not. 26/11 was not funny. Islamic terrorism is not funny. Being a Muslim in this country and facing all of this every day is not funny. Just like my son. No. Will you talk to your son like that? My son, no. Will you call him by the name of a terrorist? No. Khalas. How can you call me like that? No problem. In front of so many people in a class. Sorry, I told you. You're a professional. You're teaching. Yeah, sorry. You can't call me that. Sorry, I told you. Right? Sir, sorry doesn't change how you think or how you portray yourself here.
The young student there with lessons for his professor and many others. The university is saying they will investigate the incident and they do not support what the professor actually said. Meanwhile, a horrific case of ragging, in fact, ragging is perhaps the wrong word, but because it really is attempt to murder, has come out this time from Dibrugarh University in Upper Assam, where a young student jumped off the roof of the hostel because he had been beaten and tortured so brutally by elder students.
22-year-old Anand Sarma is in hospital with critical injuries. To escape torture, he jumped off the second floor of his hostel on Sunday after ragging by seniors at the Dibrugarh University. He described the horror from his hospital bed. The student's mother says he had complained to the authorities in writing.
কালি হি মোক ৰাতিপুৱা গধূলি টাইমত 6টা বজাত ফোন কৰিছে মাৰ বলে মই এতিয়া বলে হোষ্টেললৈ গৈ আছো তাৰপিছত আমি ৰাতি 11টাত ফোন মাৰিছো ল'ৰাটো ফোনটো ডঙা নাই তাৰমানে তাক 10টা বজাত ৰাতিপুৱা খুব চৰিয়াইছে গালে দুইটা সাইডে খুব চৰিয়াইছে তাৰপিছত ৰাতিপুৱালৈকে 5টালৈকে মাৰিছে বোলে তাৰপিছত এই ল'ৰাগিটা মাৰিছে সিনিয়ৰ গিটা ল'ৰাটো ভৰি ভাগিছে এটা হাত দুটা ভাগিছে কঁকালটো ভাগিছে আর বুকুটো পাইছে কাৰণে মাত মাতি মানে উকাই আছে আর ডিঙিৰো টাঙ্গিব পৰা নাই ল'ৰাটো না আনন্দ শৰ্মা.
This morning, the Assam Chief Minister said the accused will face strict action and appealed to students to say no to ragging.
देखिए the boy has been hospitalized yesterday. It is a matter related to rigging or we are taking very strong action against it.
The Assam police have registered a case of criminal conspiracy, wrongful restraint, dacoity, attempt to murder and unlawful assembly. An ex-student of the university and 4 students have been arrested. The police are looking for other accused in the case. The Deputy Registrar of Dibrugarh University said there was false information circulated that the students slipped and fell and confirmed it was a case of ragging.
সেইটো সত্য নহয় স্লিপ খাই পৰা কথাটো মিছা আমি যদি অনুসন্ধান কৰি পালো ছাত্ৰজনে যিহেতু গোটেই ৰাতি তেওঁ অত্যাচাৰ কৰা হ'ল তেওঁ প্ৰাণ বচাবৰ কাৰণে তেওঁ জপিয়াই দিলে
The Supreme Court has laid down strict guidelines to curb ragging at institutes of higher learning, but the implementation of these guidelines have often been found to be lacking. The Calcutta High Court earlier this month, while hearing a petition filed by the parents of Faizan Ahmed, a student who died at IIT Kharagpur after alleged ragging, came down heavily on the authorities at IIT Kharagpur, saying the guidelines seem to have been ignored. Unfortunately, as these guidelines are often ignored, students sometimes suffer grievous injury and sometimes, tragically, even death. With camera person Sanjay Chakraborty in Guwahati, in Kolkata, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
We hope that young man recovers speedily. Let's just move now to some other news. Well, this is called sore losers. Riots in Belgium after their loss to Morocco in the World Cup match. Belgian police have detained a dozen people. They've also arrested some after Sunday night's riots after Morocco's victory over Belgium. They triggered riots in Brussels with a car and some electric scooters set on fire. They also took place in several places across Brussels where dozens of soccer fans, some draped in Moroccan flags, clashed also with riot police with water cannons and tear gas. And finally, well, we all knew they were man's best companion, and now they're also the best travel companions. Watch this man's trip to Ladakh with his dog, winning hearts online.